when you're at your correct place for your sector, you'll see where it says read and affirm detailed guidelines. This is pretty important. And so what you're going to do is, I'll just click on it, it's easier. It walks through, and again, it'll be by sector, and it'll give you the background, of course, but then it's going to get into what your specific, if you're professional services, what you need to have in your plan. So this is what you're going to affirm. This is what's really important from our perspective for the control room. So right now, we only have a handful of businesses in Schuyler County that, when I say handful, less than 25, that have made their affirmation that they are going to follow guidelines. And we are part of the bigger whole, so we all need to be pushing for to make sure that we have all done this affirmation. So you'll go through the affirmation. Again, it's essentially what is in the mandatory piece, right? The mandatory guidelines that I just went over. You'll read through these. You'll say, yes, I'm going to do these. And then at the bottom, you're going to click on the link, and see if we can just do it, maybe. So you will say what your industry is that you belong to, and then you'll put your business name, your first name, your last name, your phone number, the county. Don't forget to put the county, because there is a spot for that. And when you've got that, you just click enter, and it will give you back a response. And you want to keep that response in your records. So that's number one. And then number two, what happens is that gets reported back, and Tim and his colleagues in the control room have the opportunity to sort of see how we're doing in terms of having our businesses affirmed. So if you don't do this, we will know. We will know, because we know who has. So it'll be pretty apparent. And you don't want to open yourself up for any reason for any patrons or disgruntled employees to come back and have some reason to take who might want to take an issue with you. So you're going to want to do this. So the next piece, of course, is your template. I just did one of these last night with a business that was getting started. This will take you probably, realistically, if you've put thought into it ahead of time, this will still probably take you 15 to 20 minutes. It is so, and I'm going to walk through it with you. So it is name of your business, your industry, your address, and then this is where, remember, it's a template. You don't have to follow it word for word. You can use it as a guideline and have your own plan. And I would actually, in many cases, recommend that. If you've got best practices of your particular industry, I would recommend you look at that and then work that into your template. Some places, and in fact, there's one out, I think it's Aspen. There's a group out in Colorado that has put together a really nice sort of template game plan for restaurants and hospitality. But you're going to want to have your own template. That template, that plan that you put together has to stay on your premises. So you're going to want to complete it, print it out, and then make sure that you've got it in a plastic cover and it's sitting somewhere in your business, so that if somebody comes in and asks to see it, that you've got it there. So just like what you saw under mandatory guidelines, it'll start with people and distancing. And what's important is, and I'll say this, you've got to post your social distancing. I should probably back this up so I'm very clear about this. This is sort of the minimum. So you've got to ensure the 6-foot distance, right? You've got to ensure that if it's tightly confined, you only have one person going in at a time. You can check this box. What I recommended to a business last night was, if you're not going to do this, don't check the box. Don't say you're going to do something and then not do it. This is also a good time to say, my recommendation is talk to your insurance carrier just to make sure that there's no special requirements that they have or not related to covering you for liability for COVID. That's a really important thing to do, is to talk to your insurance carrier. So you're going to post, by tape or some other means, a sign. You're going to limit, the use of bringing your employees in if you can, in close quarters. If they're in separate offices, that's of course a different situation. But if they're working close together in a work situation where they're right next to each other, you're going to want to change the way that is, that you've got that work planned. But what's interesting is this is a good example where you will need to, if you can't ensure that 6-foot distance, this is where, in this particular box, this is where you're going to say what you're going to try and do to mitigate that. So if you can't mitigate it, you should probably say that. So again, it's written, there's no surprises. It's not like you've broken any rules. And more importantly, someone can't come back and say, well, you said you were going to do this and then you didn't. How will you manage engagement with customers and visitors, on these requirements? And the same thing. So in the case of last night, the business owner is going to literally stand at the door because it's a small shop, and he's going to put sanitizer on every person who comes through the door. And they're going to put a sign up that says no mask, no service. And so those are two things. And then they're going to put tape. They're going to have people go down the aisles in one direction, and they're going to have spacing of 6 feet from the checkout counter. So that's a great example of, and literally, so that has to be typed in. So that's why I'm saying it's not, don't think you can do this in the 10 minutes before you're going to open, that you're going to open your shop to start business. And you really do want to have this in place. Protective equipment, the same thing. How, and you can see this, what's the quantity? So you have to be thinking about how many you're going to get, where are you going to procure it from? You could do what I suggested last night to the person and said, well, tell them you're getting it from the county via the chamber. And, but that only goes so far, right? There's only so many masks. And then, if they're using cloth masks, how are you going to ensure it stays clean? And if it's disposable, then that is very clear. They'll just wear them and dispose of them. How are you going to, what are the objects where you're going to have employees sharing a common object? And then what is your plan for that? And so again, it could be that you just assign one person. It could be that you assign them on an hourly basis, but you need to have a plan on how you're going to do that. And the reason I'm spending so much time on this is that it's longer than what you think it's going to be, and you need to be thinking about it before you start to fill this out. Because in some cases, you will need to talk to your employees, and you will need to understand sort of what their limitations are as well. It says that you're going to put a log in to see who's come in and where's that log going to be kept. I can tell you that in some states, there was at one point, several states had decided they were going to require that businesses collect from every patron their name and their phone number and their contact information. And that, in fact, has been changed in those states. It has to be voluntary. It can't be a must. But having a log book, a guest book, is probably a good idea. What I suggested that the persons put in for theirs was just they're going to track who's been in their business only by credit card receipts, and by and they'll be notifying people through Facebook. So you can sort of see there's some detail here, communication, how you're going to post your signage, how you're going to establish your communication plan for employees. And this is the one where the maintain a continuous log for every person and visitors who have had close contact. That one, it'll be interesting to see what the state comes back if they change this, just because I know that there's some other states that have run into some trouble with this. If a worker tests positive for COVID-19, you have to be able to say exactly what you're going to do as the business owner if in fact you have that happen. And you need to be, it needs to be thoughtful. You need to be thinking about that. Same with screening, getting your employees screened, and then the contact tracing. And then what I have suggested, if there's anything you cannot do, my recommendation is you put it in there that this is, not, it is not viable for my business. Maybe you're a sole proprietor, and there's just no way that you can, or you're not going to have employees, or what you're doing is a business where people are touching everything. It's retail. You can't go behind them, of course, but you can take steps by doing spacing. So that's what you want to do here. When you're done filling this out, you will print this. My recommendation again is 2 copies, one for your business and one for your records at home, so that you have this.